If I could only have 5 knives and they had to be from just one brand, this is what my 5-knife Boker knife collection would look like. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to this series where we take a look and see how well just one brand can service all of your knife needs. Or in this case, my knife needs, because everyone's, of course, is going to look a little bit different. But excluding kitchen knives and multi-tools, my kind of knife needs can be distilled into 5 separate things. I need a full-size folding knife, 3.5 inches or bigger on the blade, a 3-inch folding knife for smaller, more subtle use, also for legal reasons in some areas where I traverse, a gentleman's knife for when you want to look a little more fancy. I need a smaller fixed blade for camp use and a bigger fixed blade for camp use. How well does Boker stack up for me in these categories? Let's check it out. I pulled a few options for each category. I've already done a little bit of narrowing down, so let's see what we've got. First, in the full-size folder category, again, which I'm defining as 3.5 inches thereabouts or larger. First up, we have the Boker Plus Field Folder. This is a Jesper Vaknes design. Alongside that, we have the Boker Plus Thunder Strike, a Boris Manisharov design. And thirdly, the Roundhouse Flipper. Designer on this is Bruce Bingenheimer. Great name. And Lorian Arnold, by the way. So those are the 3. And this is one area, along with one other in Boker's lineup, where they're not as heavily represented as some of the other genres that I look at, the larger folder category. And like I said, I've already narrowed a few down, but here's where I'm getting a little bit stuck. My favorite blade is the field folder right there. Blade shape, grind, geometry, everything, I like that. My favorite lock of these 3 is the Strike with that button lock. I always enjoy a finger-safe lock, just for the added degree of passive safety. But the most comfortable in the hand is undoubtedly, for me, the Roundhouse. So where do we go from here? Let's look a little bit closer at each of the knives. First, that field folder. Price on this comes in just under $100. You've got a D2 blade, 3.4 inches long, so squeaks in underneath that 3.5 inch range that I'm looking at, but it's just close enough, I'd say. D2 steel, high flat grind, black stone washed finish. Looks great. A little bit thicker on the spine. It's going to be a hard working blade, which on my larger folder, I want it to do, in this context, a bit larger work. So that's good. G10 handles, nice pop of gold. That's actually a brass backspacer, not gold, I should say, and brass anodized pivot ring. Makes it look a little classier. We have an inset liner lock, which is nice. A folded over pocket clip, not quite deep carry. And opening here is achieved by the thumb cutout, blade cutout right there. And washers in the pivot on this, no ball bearing, so it has the ability to kind of withstand grit a little bit more. Is that going to be enough to for this knife to win out? Not sure yet. Moving on to the Thunderstorm. This one is about $90, 3.6 inch blade, Aussate steel, so definitely isn't going to hold an edge like the D2 can, but you got a little more length. You've got a hollow grind here. You are going to be sharpening it a little bit more, so with a hollow grind, as you sharpen it, the edge is going to stay a little bit thinner longer than on a flat grind. Aluminum handles, very aggressive glass breaker there at the back, and the button lock. Now, I have held examples of these before that you could flick open and closed perfectly right out of the box. This one's a little stiff, so I imagine that's going to break in quite nicely. Washers in the pivot here as well, no ball bearings, so a good hard working consideration there. Feels pretty good in the hand. You've got enough length, but as I mentioned, for me, this Roundhouse just feels so good in the hand. Price on this knife right here, $95. So all of these are more or less the same price. If I were spending my own money on any of this collection, that wouldn't sway me one way or the other. But we've got a 3.75 inch blade here, D2 steel with that long clip point, high flat grind for pretty good slicing. A little bit thicker on the edge on this one than the edge thickness on these other two. But the carbon fiber handles here with this shape fit me very nicely. The edge point, or the tip points down a little bit. So if you needed to use this for more self-defense scenarios, that might be a nice thing. Now this does have ball bearings in the pivot. This is not a heavy duty washer type of scenario. So it flips really nicely. And then as for the construction, it does have that feeling of hardworking. We've got full length liners, not even skeletonized to remove weight. You've got a solid backbone on the knife. Not finger safe like the button lock, but that's where we're left. Man, this is a tough one, but I do have to make a decision. Here's where it gets hard, Thomas. Say hi to Thomas behind the camera, everyone.
If you insist.
All right, so I do like a finger safe lock. I'm gonna squeak that in here. That's not gonna get eliminated first. So between the other two, between the field folder or the roundhouse, I like the drop point blade a little bit better on that field folder. I think the handle comfort's gonna win out. Sorry, Jesper, I'm gonna take the field folder off. Now we're down to two. There you go, you got a little more or less the same blade. You got a tiny bit more sharpened edge on the roundhouse there. They both feel pretty good in the hand. That feels better. The edge is gonna last longer. And honestly, it's gonna be easier than in the pocket. Going into your pocket with this glass breaker there might get a little pokey. So even though I like a drop point generally and better, and I like the button lock, the roundhouse is gonna be my full size folder of choice from the Boker lineup right now. All right, now the 3-inch folder. And interestingly enough, the gentleman's knife category, the formal knife category in this matchup, everything in it is also under 3 inches. So there is a lot of overlap between these two categories, especially since Boker makes, especially their Zolling and Germany made stuff, a lot of really classy old school folders, just classic construction, timeless good looks. I don't have any of those really in the folder category on the table here. You can see a little bit of that represented in the fixed blades, because for me, if I'm only gonna have 3 folders, they're all gonna have a pocket clip. But I am gonna start with a German-made Boker. That is the M4 Sherman, a very interesting knife in my mind. And there are 2 versions of this. There's the non-flipper version, which came first, and it's named the M4 Sherman because the Damascus blade here is made from steel from Sherman tanks, American tanks from World War II. It's a bit of kind of a weird juxtaposition in constructing here. German manufacturer, American steel from a war back there. You know what I'm talking about. But we're all friends now, I hope. But this is a really cool knife. There is another version. There is a flipper version. I have it over here with a Magna Cut blade and a Sherman steel backspacer. Now the Magna Cut is extremely desirable these days. It is extremely cool, but in hand, so many things come down to comfort, right? I like the feel of the non-flipper version better. The flipper tab on this, for me, it feels like it gets in the way just a little bit. Your mileage may vary. The Magna Cut is very cool, but between the two, I'm going with this one. This is an expensive knife, about $490. It has burlap micarta for the front scale with a bit of radius to it and a flat titanium frame lock on the back side. You've got a ball bearing based pivot here. You've got an over travel arrestor there on the back, kind of a hinderer style thing. Folded over clip, not quite deep carry in this case. Feels good in the hand, but back to that blade. So really cool history, beyond just the materials that were used. These were forged, the material for this production run was made by Chad Nichols from the materials, and the ladder pattern here was designed to, according to the lore, kind of mimic the tank treads a little bit in the way they traveled across the ground. It's very cool. It's got a nice broad shape, straight clip point here. Very, oversized, slightly oversized thumb studs. They're easy to latch onto and pop that blade open. There's a full flat grind on it, so it's gonna slice pretty decently for its size. It is just too cool. Every time I've picked up one of these knives for videos, I just feel that coolness kind of oozing out to me. I really, really like it. Also in the 3-inch category, the push button or the button lock Quaken non-auto that was released, I guess earlier this year, it might have been last year, I'm not sure now, about $214 for this. 3-inch blade, S35 VN. So edge retention out of the stuff we've looked at so far on the table, this is gonna be a bit higher. You've got that straight backed profile with all belly on the edge, titanium handles with a bit of texture. The action is superb and finger safe. Not a whole lot of finger safe options in the Boker lineup, which is not to say other locks can't be used safely, but a finger safe lock simply allows you to keep your hand completely out of the closing path of the blade while you're doing it. So that's a nice thing. And that's a very nice knife as well. Lucas Burnley design, of course. The Quaken originally is kind of what put Boker Plus, their imported subsidiary. They're all imports here in the US pretty much, but the non-German made more budget stuff originally kind of put them on the map. So it's cool to see them still doing stuff. The other designer that I think, in my mind, I heavily associate with Boker Plus stuff is Brad Zinker. And another 3-inch knife for consideration is the Urban Barlow. This one right here is our KnifeCenter exclusive with the burnt orange canvas micarta, but you can also get carbon fiber options. And this starts about $295 with a K390 blade on this one. So tons of edge retention, high hollow grind, very cool blade shape. Interestingly, longtime regulars of this channel will know I'm not a huge front flipper guy, but this one actually works well for me as I slightly struggle with it. But you can use your thumb or your index finger on that quite easily. This is actually made for Boker by Riot, so the quality is absolutely top notch. I have a Brad Zinker Urban Trapper at home. It just doesn't quite fit into this 5-knife collection here, so it'd be cool to keep Zinker in the collection. So what am I gonna go with here for the 3-inch folder? Well, let's talk about the gents, the formal folders first, because all of those also are kind of 3-inch folders in this case. So let's see where they overlap. Let's see if we can come up with an interesting combination. The Aphex Mini, another Burnley design, coming in about 170 bucks. You got a 3-inch drop point blade with VG10 steel, titanium for the frame lock, red carbon fiber inlays front and back. I don't think it's name brand fat carbon, but it still looks very, very good. And this is a titanium frame lock flipper with all the trappings. You've got ball bearings in the pivot. You've got an internally mounted lock bar interface / over travel arrestor. And you've got great little flipping action. Kind of a 3-finger knife for me. Really cool blade shape. Let's see, I haven't tried in a while. Yeah, you're not really doing a single hand open with those two kind of milled pockets in the blade, but it does facilitate a 2-hand opening quite easily, which could be a handy thing for more formal situations if you want to go a little bit more slowly in your opening / closing action. Another knife I really like in this category is the Canoe, which is a Joe Mangiafico design, and it's not a canoe in terms of like old school slip joint patterns. It is a small titanium frame lock. 182 for this. The blue anodized titanium for the handles, bronze anodized hardware and clip, which that clip will especially kind of blend in nicely with a pair of khakis, keep things a little more subtle, which is pretty cool. Blade is about 2.7 inches long clip point, S35 VN here with a stone washed finish. And this thing right here kind of is as close as Boker has ever come, in my mind, to kind of getting into that same realm of something like a small Sebenza, which is to say it's put together exceptionally well. It's simply elegant, not over the top, not ostentatious. You could dress this up or down, like I said, a pair of khakis or a suit or a pair of blue jeans. This is gonna look really, really good. And the action's really, really nice too. Technically, you could front flip it, but I've never been good at that anyway. Thumb studs work just fine as far as I'm concerned. Last but not least, I really like the LRF series from Kansei Matsuno. There's a ton of really good designs with them. I happen to really like this one. This one right here is actually a KnifeCenter exclusive with a VG10 blade and a faux ivory handle. This is actually just a resin. It's a man-made material, not naturally occurring stuff, but it has a really classy, really clean look. The blade itself is super clean. 3-inch spear point, horizontal grain, very, very classy looking, almost kind of letter opener looking in a way, which in my mind for a gents knife has always been a good thing. Ball bearings in the pivot, 2 flipper opening options. You do have a front flippity option. You can also use that to open it a little more subtly, a little more slowly, or you use the back bit of the tab for conventional flipping. Crowned spine on this, which is really, really nice. Deep carry pocket clip, just a little bit of the bail sticking out if you remove the leather thong there at the end, which I probably would. Other versions of this are available too with different handle and blade materials. Now we got to make some decisions. This is going to be tough. All right. I think I know what I'm going to do. Let me explain though. As much as I love a finger safe lock, I'm going to take the button lock Quaken out, simply because I find clip point, or especially a drop point blade, more useful for me, more natural to use than the straight backed profile here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out. Between the other two, both of these are very cool. Both of them are premium. Performance-wise, you're going to definitely get more out of the Urban Trapper. But just the sheer emotion that exudes from this knife, the sheer coolness that exudes from this knife, for me, this feels more special. And since I'm not paying for these, well, I'm not getting to keep them anyway, but since this is a theoretical exercise anyway, I would just enjoy taking this out and being able to use it all the time. I'm gonna go with that. I am gonna keep these separated, these from the Gen C stuff. Coming to the Gen C stuff, let's see. Well, these first two are more alike, titanium frame locks. One's a flipper, one's not. Between the two, the prices are fairly similar, right? I mean, the 170 for the Aphex Mini, 180, give or take, for the Canoe. For that, you're getting VG10 on the Aphex or S35 on the Canoe. I like the blade shape on the Canoe better. Let's see. All right, let's do a test flip here. Yeah, that's nice. Let's compare it to the 3-inch knife we've already picked. Kind of getting similar. It's a little bit smaller, yeah, but maybe there's too much overlap there. I'm not sure. Let's hold the Canoe up next to it. I don't know. These are kind of alike too. They're both frame locks with no flipper. Between I think I like the Canoe better than the Aphex, although I think the Aphex is criminally underrated in the lineup right now. So now I have to decide between it and the LRF. We've got a more pen-like quality, a bit more of an executive knife quality with the LRF. Do I have to decide?
Yes.
I set the rules, so I kind of do have to decide, don't I?
Yeah, in the comment section will never let you hear the end of it.
Oh, man. All right. These two are pretty similar. Taken in isolation, I might choose the Canoe, quite honestly. And I expected I was going to when I came into this video. But because I like that Sherman so much, I think I'm going to have to go with the LRF for that. You've actually got, it feels like a longer knife, even though you've got, if you take measure actual edge, you have more sharpened edge on the Zollinger-made knife there. But this is classy, this is slim, this is going to be easy to carry. I guess the alternate option, so I'm picking these two. This is my final answer. But if they weren't, I bet you this combination would make sense together, yeah? Maybe? Let me know what you think down in the comments section. All right, now we're to the fixed blades. Let's move these guys over here. There you go. That's a pretty good lineup right there, I'd say. I dig that. Smaller camp fixed blade. For me, 4 to 4.5 inches is the kind of, 3.5 to 4.5 inches is kind of the blade length I'm looking for ideally. First, let's look at one of the Arbolito, the Argentinian-made Boker knives. We haven't shown any of those yet, with their BK1 bushcraft knife. $125, comes with a nice simple leather sheath, simple but robust. Fire steel loop on the side. Full-length tang N690 steel, just over 4 inches. It looks like it might be a Scandi grind, but it is actually convex. So comes right down to 0-2, no secondary bevel right there. And an overmolded handle, very much Feldknieven style. I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that. Feels good in the hand for sure. It's nimble enough for the carving and the smaller camp tasks, which is ultimately what I need a knife this size for. Next up, about $118, we have the Little Rock right here, a James Helm design. And this is more kind of like, at least I say classic survival knife, but maybe people might think like a Rambo knife for there, but like the kind of survival knives that were so prevalent when I was first getting into things. Micarta handles, tough carbon steel blade. This is about 4.1 inches. SK5 or SK85 is technically the new designation for it, but it's the same steel. And it says SK5 on the blade here. Black powder coating to keep rust at bay. High flat grind. Thickness is, it's about 3/16 of an inch thick there, isn't it? Let's see, what do we got? 0.2, yeah, just over, in fact. Take the coating into account. Really decent slicing geometry, really good feel in the hand. Sometimes these kind of, just downward swooping, inward curving handles like this can feel a little uncomfortable for me, but not this one. This one is not so aggressive of a curve that it becomes uncomfortable. This works really nicely. It's gonna work really nicely in a bunch of different grips and just feels super stable, super tough. Comes with a Kydex sheath as well. Next up, a German-made fixed blade, and by far the most expensive knife on the table today. This is the Boker Savannah, about $453 right now. 4.6 inch blade, so it's just at the top end of the range that I'm looking for here. N690 steel, really cool finish on the blade. You've got kind of satin rubbed horizontal grain on the flats and more of a almost high polish, almost mirror polished flats there, but high flat grind, nice thin edge, very versatile shape, very cool handles. Micarta, you've got that kind of mountain tread texture going on, but it's all rounded off, so there's no sharp bits sticking out. Full tang, you've got an integrated metal guard right there, gives you finger protection. All of these knives have that to one degree or another, which I tend to appreciate. It feels good and it just looks oh so good. Forgot to mention the red liners on there too. Feels great in your hammer grip and saber grip. Feels pretty good in a reverse or a chest lever grip. I do get a little bit of pokiness right there, but not too bad. Man, it feels so good. And this comes also with a black leather sheath. No fire steel loop on there, but just nice, simple, and classic. I'm not gonna make the final decision here yet until I talk about the bigger camp fixed blade that I want, but I am gonna take one off the table, and that's gonna be the BK1 right here. As cool as this is, the others feel like more to me. And I kind of like the edge geometry better there, a little more slicey than this right here. So the BK1, BK-1 is going off of the table. And now we got to look at the big fixed blades. This is the other area where Boker has stuff, but is kind of less well represented than other areas of the lineup. So I have two to look at here. I did want to look at the full-size Boker Tracker, the Dave Wenger version, but we didn't have any on the shelf today when we were filming, unfortunately, but also worth checking out. The first is another Arbolito fixed blade. This is the El Gigante. Way cool. Let me explain what I want my larger camping fixed blade to do. Primarily, some light chopping, light to medium duty chopping. You're never gonna out-chop an axe with something like this. Keep it within reason. But chopping and batoning primarily, splitting wood. Yes, you can do it with an axe. Yes, you can do it with a hatchet. I appreciate having a large fixed blade that can do those things, as well as doing some light brush clearing, light machete type of work, all in one kind of package right here. The El Gigante is very cool. It's actually pretty reasonably priced for what you're getting, I would say. $226, not cheap, but you've got a 8 3/8 inch blade and N695 steel, stonewash finish, full flat grind, long aggressive swedge. It's a Bowie knife. You've got that typical ricasso here at the front, and it is big enough that you can hook your finger up into there. Some kind of knife companies, I think, get that wrong in their Bowie designs, but Boker did not. So you can get that to choke up, whether to remove it from a target or for smaller work, if you need to get there behind the edge for smaller carving. And with this knife, there is enough balance that you could do that. It's not too unwieldy for that sort of thing. The handles do let me down just a little bit. They are green micarta, although a wood is also available, The peaks here are a little sharp. Wearing gloves, I don't think it would be a problem, but right out of the box, unless you were to mod it a little bit, that is a little bit much, a little bit rough for barehanded use, in my opinion. And for woods use, which is what I would use this knife for, the rear guard gets in the way a little bit from those choked up grips. Granted, this is not first and foremost a woods knife. This is a combat style knife. This is a fighting knife being put to use somewhere else. So that's not necessarily a knock against the design. It's just a knock against my personal requirements with this knife. Next up is the Boker Magnum 2023 Special Edition fixed blade. Another Lucas Burnley design. This is a $200 knife. The handles are exceptionally cool. You've got black micarta, nicely contoured. Right out of the box, definitely more comfortable in the hand than the ridged El Gigante right there. Really sweet looking blade, hint of recurve, almost a bull-nosed Skinner design there at the front, which is pretty cool. As for that blade, it is D2 steel and it is just under 7 inches long. What does that mean? Well, the D2 steel is definitely not going to be as tough, and that is going to come in against it for chopping, batoning, that sort of thing. And it's not quite long enough to do some vegetation work, slashing vines, slashing grasses, that sort of thing. It would baton pretty well. Geometry-wise, the D2 is going to let it down. So I'm going to take this off the table, but I'm going to have to say the El Gigante, I'm going to have to mod it. I would take this to a sander or something just to knock the peaks down here so that it's a little more comfortable, and I would grind down the guard there at the back. Yes, you're doing a lot of modding to something that already costs over $200, but it would be worth it to have a tool that is really what you want it to be. The sheath is also really sweet. Check this out. Nice leather pancake style design. You've got a dangler here, which on a big knife like that is going to be really nice to helping it stay comfortable and out of the way when you go to sit down. You can slide that under, use the belt loop here or the belt loop on the dangler. You can unsnap this and take the dangler off, which is a handy thing when you take into account the post here on the front. You do have the leather strap that wraps around to keep it secure. And admittedly, that's going to be a little bit of a problem for me if I do grind off that guard at the back. I've just realized that. Maybe I wouldn't take it completely off, but minimize it just a little bit. But the cool thing about this post, especially if I fold this back, is you can slide this knife inside the waistband. Careful how you sit down, but that post can kind of hold things up above the hemline or the belt line. I've seen it done. I don't know if I could get away with it. I think my love handles might be a little too generous, but it's an option, and it's a cool sheath. So that's the big camp fixed blade. Which one of these smaller camp fixed blades is going to go best with it? I mean, look at that combo right there. Sorry, James Helm. Sorry, Little Rock. Awesome knife. But this combo right here, how cool is that? How awesome do they look together, and how effective are they going to be at covering pretty much all your outdoor knife needs? Man, that's gonna be cool. I especially like this, the Savannah here, because of the food prep applications in your camp use. This is gonna be a lot nicer of a food prep knife than either of the other two small fixed blades we looked at. Certainly a better food prepper than the big Bowie there with the El Gigante. There you go. That is my 5-knife Boker collection that would genuinely cover all of my needs as I see them in any case. What about your 5-knife Boker collections? How do your needs differ from mine, and what would the 5 knives you would pick from their lineup be? Let me know in the comments if you please. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives as well, check out the links in the description. They will take you to KnifeCenter.com. Not just these 5 here, but all the ones we showed today. And while you're over at the website, make sure you don't forget about our Knife Rewards program that lets you earn free money on your next knife when you buy one of these knives today. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. See you next time.